welcome into a special solo edition of the Pain and Panic podcast. I am Adam Sheets. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to talk about the NFL division races as they fastly pick up here going into the last week. The NFL got what they wanted. There was a lot of worry going into this week about the playoffs really being completely set, but the NFL gets what they want. They have a lot of marquee matchups in Week 18 to decide the playoffs. Between teams that are fighting for playoff lives, we have two win and in, losing you're out situations that we will discuss in between the divisions of the AFC North and the NFC South, as well as some one-seed scenarios for both sides. It should be a lot of fun here. I'm Adam Sheets again. Thank you for joining us, and we'll get started right into it. So we're talking about the division races in the NFL, specifically the divisions. We'll talk more about the one seed when Chris comes back for our normal Friday morning episode when we preview everything and get you started. Also, be on the lookout. We should have a college football playoff quarterfinal matchup coming out probably tomorrow to preview the college football playoff quarterfinals, as well as recap what has been a fun bowl season. But today, focusing on the NFL division races. So there have been four divisions that are already set in stone. We know who is winning them. The AFC West has been won by the Denver Broncos after the Los Angeles Chargers fell 20-16 to the Houston Texans on Saturday afternoon. The Broncos win the division. They end the reign of terror of Kansas City. It was going to end anyway. We knew the Chiefs were going to be out, but the Broncos are going to be able to put their name back on that graphic after all the Kansas City division titles from 2015 up until now. AFC East, the New England Patriots clinched the AFC East yesterday with a win over the Jets, also being aided with a 13-12 loss from the Bills as they lose to the Eagles. A missed field goal cost Buffalo against Philadelphia, and the Eagles able to get the win, eliminating the Bills from division race. They will be a wild card team. They will be in the playoffs. The most experienced team in the AFC will be the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen at quarterback. The NFC East, as we mentioned, the Philadelphia Eagles have clinched the NFC East at 11-5. They've had a really good year. A lot of ups and downs. It's been a weird year for Philadelphia. I think a lot of highs of highs and lows of lows for this team, but they're 11-5. They're playing maybe their best football right now. The offense struggled in bad weather in Buffalo, but the defense was phenomenal against that Bills team. Shut them out for three quarters. Bills get two late touchdowns to try to steal it. Unable to do so. Again, the missed extra point hurts Buffalo in the end. And the NFC North has been clinched by the Chicago Bears, even with a 42-38 loss last night to the San Francisco 49ers. The Bears have clinched the NFC North, with the Packers losing to the Ravens on Saturday night. We'll talk more about that game shortly, but the Packers lose, so the Bears have clinched. The Lions also lost, as we remember, back on Christmas Day. They lost to the Vikings, who are also eliminated from playoff contention. We'll talk a little bit more about, the NFC North, a tie really affecting the playoff wildcard race out there, so we'll talk about that as well later on in this episode. But again, we're talking about the divisions. That's what everyone wants to talk about. It's the big race. We're going into the last week of the year. Buckle up. Most of the playoff teams have been set. I believe we have 6 of 7 teams locked in on both sides of the playoff bracket. We're waiting for the 4 seed in both of them. So we'll start on the AFC side, and we're starting with that AFC North matchup. We're just talking about it. That's the one playoff spot in the AFC that has not been decided. The Steelers and the Ravens are going to battle it in the final game of the regular season on Sunday night, as the Steelers fell 13-6 to the Browns as Shadur Sanders on Sunday, setting up this winner-go-home final game in the regular season in Pittsburgh, one of the best young rivalries in the NFL. Also helped, the Ravens needed a win to get to this spot, and they got it. Derrick Henry had a career day, career high in rushing attempts, and tied his career high in touchdowns with 4 as he rushed for over 200 yards in the 41-24 win over the Green Bay Packers on Saturday night. A backup quarterback duel. Snoop Huntley started that game for Baltimore, and of course Malik Willis was starting after the concussion to Jordan Love. Probably expecting Jordan Love back, but the Packers are locked into that 7 seed, so we'll see. Maybe they rest the guys, just get ready for their playoff matchup, whether it be against the Bears or the Eagles. Most likely going to be against the Bears. The Bears do have that tiebreaker, but the Bears have to play the Lions this week, so we'll see what the Lions decide to do, even though they are eliminated. But this game, huge game for both teams. Obviously, it's win or go home. You want to make the playoffs, you got to win this game. Ravens sitting at 8-8, Steelers at 9-7. If the Ravens win, they will have the tiebreaker and get into the playoffs, so it will be a lot of fun. But I feel like everyone agrees with me. Big game, Steelers. Questionable calls there maybe in the Browns game that allows the Browns able to sneak the win. Aaron Rodgers maybe missed Kenneth Gainwell across the middle that would have set up the game-winning touchdown, but tried to force it in and was incomplete on 4th down. But tough loss for the Steelers, but it sets up this game, which in my mind, loser leaves town, and I'm talking about the head coaches, Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh. These are two of the best coaches in the NFL, don't get me wrong. I think they're really, really good coaches. They've had tremendous tenures, the two longest tenured head coaches at their current stops, I believe, in the NFL, and I feel like whoever loses this game, the teams need to make a change. I said this before the year. I was not very confident about the coaching situations. I said, maybe, it's time for a change for both teams. Steelers, reset. Get a new quarterback in. Aaron Rodgers, probably his last year. It was a one-year rental. They've done one-year rentals now the last 2 years. They had Russell Wilson and Justin Fields last season. Maybe time for Mike Tomlin, who has had his ups and downs. Maybe let him go. Same with John Harbaugh, but for a different reason. John Harbaugh, he's got a team that's ready to, feels like takes the next step, ready to compete for a Super Bowl. You have Lamar Jackson. You got to get the pieces around him, but maybe it's just time for a new voice in that head coaching role to find a way. So I think this game, it's going to be a lot of fun on Sunday night, one of the best rivalries in football. And I believe it could be a loser leaves town game for the head coach that ends up missing the playoffs and losing this game. Now let's get into a little bit more of the numbers here for this game when you look at it, because it's like Mike Tomlin, he's never had a losing season. That's going to stay this year. They're 9-7, so even if they lose to the Ravens, they'll be 9-8. So it's like, well, why would you get rid of Mike Tomlin? Well, here's why. I said I think they need to reset, get a new quarterback. You look at Mike Tomlin. You never had a losing season. His worst years are 8-8 or 9-8. He's been 500 at worst. So that's a plus for Mike Tomlin. But you look at it, his playoff record, he's 8-11. He has not won. His last playoff win was January 15th, 2017. We are entering 2026. So that's 9 years since Mike Tomlin has won a playoff game in Pittsburgh. Has a losing season, but he hasn't won a playoff game. What are we doing in Pittsburgh? This is a team that's got 6 Super Bowls. One of the richest franchises in NFL history when you look at history. 4 Super Bowls in the 70s. Ben Roethlisberger comes in, wins 2 Super Bowls, one with Bill Cowher, one with Mike Tomlin, of course, when they beat the Arizona Cardinals. What do we do now? It's just time for a change. Mike Tomlin, I think, is going to be a really good coach elsewhere, and that's maybe the fear. You saw, like I mentioned, Andy Reid got fired in Philadelphia. Andy Reid was very successful. Didn't win a Super Bowl, but was a very successful coach in Philadelphia. He ended up going to Kansas City, and maybe Philadelphia fans were like, yeah, watching him win Super Bowls in Kansas City hasn't been nice, but Philly's got 2 since they fired Andy Reid. They got a Super Bowl in 2017 with Doug Peterson, got a Super Bowl just last year with Nick Sirianni. So it's worked out for both sides. Andy Reid's got 3 Super Bowls, Philly's got 2. No one's knocking the breakup. Maybe it's time for Pittsburgh to feel that. Mike Tomlin's going to get another head coaching job. You know it. He's a culture builder. He's a good coach. He wins games, but he doesn't win the games that I think the Steelers are ready to. So I think it's willing to take that risk, jump off that cliff, think, hey, what's going to happen? What's out there? You have that cloudy mist on the cliff. Are you going to take the step through? You could fall down. You could reach new heights with a new head coach. You don't know. So I think it is crucial for the Steelers if they would lose this game. If they win, maybe reset. You're 10-7. You're in the playoffs. Anything can happen when you get in. You'll have a home game in the playoffs as a 4th seed. You'll see what you can do. Maybe you make a run this year with Aaron Rodgers, who's in a very weak, experienced AFC playoffs. He'll be by far the most experienced quarterback. Josh Allen there as well. Of course, Aaron Rodgers may be limited with, where he's at in his career. He's much older. Josh Allen in his prime, but the experience, knowing how to handle the playoffs, Aaron Rodgers knows how to do that. Mike Tomlin does as well, even though he has been unsuccessful in the playoffs for a long, long time. But I think if you lose this game, if you lose to Baltimore at home, and you miss the playoffs at 9-8 after losing to a 3-win Browns team with Shadur Sanders, I just think it'd be time for a change. I think Mike Tomlin would get a job quickly somewhere else, and he would be successful somewhere else if he's in the right position. But I think if you're the Steelers, you got to look in the mirror. You got to look at, man, the Patriots are really good. Might be the 1 seed. Patriots are really good. How'd they do it? Oh, they got Mike Vrabel in there. They have a young quarterback in Drake May, and they're building through that, and it's really worked out. The Bears, Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, works out. Jags, Liam Cohen, Trevor Lawrence, it's working out. They won 12 games. That's what you want in Pittsburgh. You need that young quarterback. These one-year rental quarterbacks, like this stopgap quarterbacks, it works for a while. We saw, Indianapolis tried it. It was finally working this year with Daniel Jones. We saw him do it with Carson Wentz. Didn't work out. Phillip Rivers got him to the playoffs. Matt Ryan didn't work out. They tried with Anthony Richardson. That didn't work out. Now they went with Daniel Jones. It was finally working out with the one-year rental quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson, besides, they actually drafted him. They just weren't able to develop him the way I think they needed to. When they get Daniel Jones, it's working, but he tears his Achilles. They've now lost 6 straight games, and they're going to miss the playoffs. They're 8-8. So I just think you need to eventually say, hey, we need a new quarterback. They tried with Kenny Pickett. Didn't work out, and it's a little bit because Mike Tomlin's such a good coach. You're drafting in the teens. It's hard to find a franchise quarterback in the teens. They're few and far between. You need to be up in that top 10, top 5 range to truly get that franchise quarterback to build around. The quarterbacks I mentioned, Drake May was a top 5 pick. Trevor Lawrence was the number 1 pick. Caleb Williams was the number 1 pick. So you need those guys with that high upside and that draft potential, which I think is what the Steelers would eventually need. Maybe it's taking a guy like an Anthony Richardson, getting a quarterback to come on like a quarterback rehabilitation project. Try to get a quarterback who was highly drafted that hasn't worked out, try to rebuild him kind of the way Liam Cohen did with not just Trevor Lawrence, but Baker Mayfield, another number 1 pick that he was able to build up in Tampa at his best years with Liam Cohen as his offensive coordinator. So that's, I think, the fear. There's the, man, if we go in, we could end up 3-14. We're a 500 team. But at the same time, is Mike Tomlin ever going to win you a Super Bowl in this current iteration of the Steelers? I understand. Well, why don't we get him a quarterback? I just don't know. And he deserves some of the flack there, too, in the quarterback situation. So for the Ravens side, it's a little different. John Harbaugh's been there a long time. He's also won a Super Bowl. So there's a lot of tenure there. They've had a lot of success. But the Ravens feel like a team that's ready to take that next step. They've been a team that's disappointed in the playoffs every year with the John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson, rendition. You look at their record since 2018. That was Lamar Jackson's rookie year. Remember, he only played half that year. Joe Flacco started the year. Lamar came in. They ended up going to the playoffs, losing to Phillip Rivers and the San Diego Chargers. A lot of Phillip Rivers mentions here early for a guy who's eliminated. We're talking about division races. Promise we're not going to talk about him a lot. But since 2018, their overall record, 86-46. It's a good record. It's a really good record. They won a lot of regular season games. Their playoff record, though, 3-6. Now, a lot of people attribute that to Lamar Jackson and his struggles in the playoffs. Remember, one of those losses is with Snoop Huntley, a quarterback, when they went to Cincinnati and Lamar was hurt. But their playoff record, 3-6. They've only made the AFC Championship game once, and they've never been to the Super Bowl. Their one appearance was a 17-10 home loss to Kansas City. They got them in their own place, and they weren't able to get the job done. So it just feels like if the Ravens were to lose this game, finish the year below 500, maybe it's time to say, look, John Harbaugh is not the guy that's going to help us get the most out of Lamar Jackson and reach the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. Where do you go? What do you do? I think you just find a new coach. I think we just talked about it. There's been plenty of teams where you bring in a new coach and things elevate. The players play better, things like that. Maybe that would happen in this situation. Now, the coaching pool is not as good, as last year. I felt like last year we had a lot of guys that people were talking about. Mike Vrabel, I think a lot of people were talking about, he's going to get a head coaching job and he's going to be very successful. Ben Johnson, of course, was the golden goose in the coaching race. Everyone's like, who's going to get Ben Johnson? The Bears get him, and it's really working out. Liam Cohen was not many people were talking about Liam Cohen, but that hire looks better and better. Kellen Moore, even though they're in New Orleans and they're not going to make the playoffs, that team's not very good. He's getting the best out of Tyler Shuck. The Saints are playing really good football right now. So that was a good hire when you look at what they were able to do. Schottenheimer was a solid hire to start, kind of pettered off. I think a lot of it was maybe more of front office decisions and some of the moves they made for the defense. Matt Eberflus being the defensive coordinator rather than just Schottenheimer and his offense. So we'll see there how that works out. But it hasn't been a total disaster. Aaron Glenn has not been good. So there have been, duds, but maybe that first year coach bump, maybe they can get more out of Lamar Jackson. And again, I understand the risk. You have a good thing. They've been there. Do you just keep banging your head against the wall and see what happens? But I think it would be time. This team has not been good this year. They're finally finding an opportunity. They'll have a chance to do it. We'll see if they can. But I think truly, if the loser of this game, I think they've really got to take a look in the mirror and say, I think it's time for a new head coach for our respective teams to see what they can do. So my prediction, I think the Ravens are going to knock off the Steelers. I think the Ravens win in Pittsburgh. I have questions about the Steelers' run defense at times. They've been good for the last couple of weeks. They were able to stop the run against Detroit. But I think Derrick Henry's hot. I think Lamar Jackson will play in this game, I would imagine. I was a little surprised he didn't play in a must-win game last week. He didn't have anything broken, but that's kind of been Lamar. He hasn't played through injury a lot in his career, so and I'm not going to judge him. I don't know how bad the pain is, so I'm not going to try to judge him here, but I would imagine Lamar's going to play in this game, and I think the Ravens end up beating the Steelers, getting to the playoffs. And I think that's good because you look at the experience of the Ravens, you have them and the Bills as now kind of the two, experienced quarterbacks. Now, not a lot of success on the Ravens side. The Bills have beaten basically everyone except Kansas City in the playoffs for the most part. But no Joe, can you imagine we had no Joe Burrow, no Lamar Jackson, and no Patrick Mahomes in the AFC playoffs. It'd be weird to watch. We also already have a lot of new faces with then Josh Allen sitting there and Rodgers getting in, but he's never been to the AFC playoffs, so we'd see how that would go. But I think the Ravens do get the win in Pittsburgh, and I think the Ravens will be representing the AFC North in the playoffs as the 4th seed, and they'll have a home game in Baltimore. Now we move to the other AFC division that has not been decided yet, the AFC South. The Jacksonville Jaguars and the Houston Texans are fighting for this one. They don't play, so we don't get a win game for the division. We don't get a division title game, basically, in this situation. They've already played twice, but here's our scenarios. Jags, pretty simple. Beat the Tennessee Titans and you're in. They beat them 25-3 earlier this year. Titans just lost to the Saints. So you'd feel good. You get them at home in Jacksonville, win, and you're in on Sunday at 1 o'clock. The Texans, they need the Jags to lose, of course, because the Jags win, they get it. So the Texans would need the Jags to lose, and they need to beat the Indianapolis Colts, who, as we mentioned, have lost 6 straight games. Phillip Rivers at quarterback. He's played well, but they haven't been able to find ways to win. These are the 2 hottest teams in the NFL right now. Texans have the longest winning streak. They won 8 straight games. Jags, second longest winning streak. They've won 7 straight games. These 2 teams are hot. They're playing their best football right now. The Jags showed some chinks in the armor a little bit, with the way they've been playing. They've been dominating teams. They struggled at times with Indianapolis, which might be good. Trevor Lawrence, who was playing hot, didn't have his best game, played well, threw a bad interception right before the half. They're able to get the win 23-17. The Texans, they played really well at times. Offense didn't look good against the Raiders. They were up and down a little bit against the Chargers. They were able to get the win. C.J. Stroud threw 2 interceptions, but finding ways to win. That defense is, Chris has said it a lot on this show, and I agree with him, maybe the best unit in the NFL. And they show that, hold the Chargers 16 points and able to get that win. It was questionable call in that game. I'm not going to really get into that much, but Texans and Jags, 2 hottest teams in the league. This could be a first-round playoff matchup. It could be. There, you're looking at a 3 versus 6. Jags still not out of it for the 1 seed. If the Patriots would lose to the Dolphins, you can stop listening now, I guess. And the Broncos would lose to the Chargers, which is more plausible. The Jags would get the 1 seed if they beat the Titans. Probably not going to happen. I can't imagine Drake May and the Patriots losing to the Dolphins and Quinn Ewers, even though Quinn Ewers just beat the Bucs. But I don't think that's going to happen, so they could get the 1 seed. Could also get the 2 seed, if the Patriots would win and the Broncos would lose, and it goes to a head-to-head between the Broncos and Jags. Of course, the Jags just beat the Broncos, so the Jags would get the 2 seed, which would probably line them up with the Chargers right now, I believe. I think that's where the playoff seeding looks at now. Don't have it up in front of me at this moment. But, yeah, so I think the Jags, but this could be a matchup if it's 3-6. Could also be a 4-5 match. The Texans could still get the 5 here, so the Texans could actually be in a favorable matchup against either the Ravens or the Steelers. But if this is a fun matchup, they've been good games. 17-10 win in week 3 for Jacksonville, and then when they went to Houston, Davis Mills was playing, and the Texans erased a 19-point fourth quarter deficit to win 36-29. So these teams know each other very well. Would be a fun matchup. My prediction, I'm a Jags fan. I'm going to be impartial. I'm not really going out on a limb here, but I do think they beat the Titans this week, and they clinch the division. And maybe, potentially, I'm not going to say they get the 1 seed, but I think they end up getting a good seed and getting a home game in Jacksonville for them. So I do think the Jags end up winning the AFC South. Not going out on a limb there, but I think that's how it works out. Now we go to the NFC South. This is the other winning you're in, losing you're out game. The Bucs and the Panthers. This game will be played in Tampa Bay on Saturday at 4:30. The Bucs, they've been banged up all year, but this collapse has not been fun for Todd Bowles, Baker Mayfield, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They started the year 5-1. They have now lost 7 of their last 8 games and sit at 7-9. I mean, I don't think anyone thought after starting the season 5-1 that this team would go 2-8 over their next 10. Just didn't expect it. It's been a tough year. They've had losses to the Falcons, Saints, and Dolphins on this recent losing skid when they've lost 7 of their last 8. Just things have not gone well. The offense has sputtered at times. Defense has been up and down. They're finding ways to lose games. And early in the season, they weren't playing well. They're finding ways to win games. Remember, we had Baker Mayfield as potentially the MVP of the league through 5 weeks. That obviously has not worked out for Baker. And now this team's finding ways to lose games. The Falcons game was a wild loss for them. Just things have not gone well. Panthers, kind of the opposite. They've had a bottom 10 offense all year long. Bryce Young's had some ups and downs this season, but they found ways to win some of these games. They beat the Packers. That was a big win. They beat the Rams at home, which is one of the best wins in the NFL this season, which is helping the Seahawks and Niners out a lot as they're trying to fight for the 1 seed over in the NFC West. So the Panthers, it's been like, how are they winning these games? They don't have guys that you like know. Ted McMillan's having a really good rookie year. But like it's like who's standing out for them? But they find ways to win these games. They lost 27-10 to the Seahawks at home this week. Now they have to go on the road. The Panthers did win this matchup in Carolina in a game it felt like the Buccaneers outplayed them for the most part, and then the Panthers steal it at the end. It's kind of like all Panthers games. It's never like you watch the Panthers, you're like, man, they just beat you up. Nah. Just hang around. They find ways to win. So credit to Dave Canales and that crew in Carolina for being able to do this. This is an interesting matchup because if everyone remembers, this offseason, Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions petitioned to get rid of the division winners, getting in the playoffs and just seeding them by record. And it's big because it wouldn't be, the Lions wouldn't be the team to look at. They could get in at 9-8, but the team to look at would be the Vikings who get at 9-8. You know, if the Bucks would end up winning this game and getting at 8-9, same with the Lions as well if they would end up beating the Bears. But the Bucks could get in with a losing record if they win, and I think they will. I do think Tampa Bay, just because they've tried to die so many times this year and they've been able to stay alive. I don't get it. Don't understand it. That they lost to the Falcons, we're like, man, they're in trouble. All the Panthers have to do is beat the Saints. Panthers lost to the Saints. Okay, so it set up this, all the Bucks have to do is split. They lose the first one, okay. That's like, okay, well, they're going to beat the Dolphins. Then the Panthers probably going to lose to the Seahawks, and then they'll both be 8-8 playing for the division. Oh, the Bucks lost. Sounds about right. This was my NFC championship. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl, so I'm not salty at all about this. And then the Seahawks lose. The Seahawks win 27-10, so it sets up this game. The Bucks have just tried to die so many times this season. They have not. And I think, since they don't want to die, I think they'll just accidentally end up winning this division. So I think the Bucks beat the Panthers on Saturday afternoon, and I think the Bucks get in at 8-9, which will start an interesting conversation about should we really have these division winners in? We're having it in college football. We talked about it. Why do the Group 5 teams in? Why don't we just put 12 best teams in? Well, if we're going to do that, let's go to the NFL and say, why are we putting these division winners in if they don't deserve to be in? We're going to leave a team out that deserves to be in. AFC really doesn't have this problem because the Colts have fallen apart, but it looked like the AFC could have had this problem with a good team in the AFC wildcard race and they left out for the AFC North. The NFC could have had it. Now, granted, the Lions kind of fell off. The Vikings might get to 9-8, but I think we're going to have a team with a losing record in the playoffs, and I think that will be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if they get in, they've been good in the playoffs. Lost to the Commanders last year in their first playoff game, but they played well, came down to a last-second field goal. Remember, they beat Philadelphia there a couple times. So they've had playoff success with this rendition of the team, so we'll see if they're able to do that again. I do think they will get in. Would be nice to see the Panthers to get in. I think it would be a good boost for them going into next season as they continue to try to build with Bryce Young. I think there'd be a lot of interesting storylines there, but I do think the Bucs are going to get in from the NFC South. Now we finish it out with the NFC West. 3 teams involved here. Loaded division. The 13-3 Seattle Seahawks, the 12-4 San Francisco 49ers, and the 12-4 Los Angeles Rams. Well, 11-4 Los Angeles Rams. I apologize. The Rams have not played yet. They play tonight on Monday Night Football against the Falcons. Go down a limb and say they're going to win the game. If they don't, it really doesn't matter. It would matter between the 5 and 6 seed for the Rams, but the Rams are locked into the 5 seed if they win out. They cannot get the 1 seed because of that 38-37 loss to the Seattle Seahawks in overtime, which means the Seahawks and Niners are playing for the 1 seed and the division on Saturday night. So the Rams kind of sitting at the 5 seed. All they have to do is win out. They have a favorable schedule. They play the Falcons and the Cardinals. They should win both those games, and they should find a way to win. Rams especially really want to win that game because the Rams have the Falcons' first-round pick. People forget that. But the Rams play the Falcons today, and they have their first-round pick. So a win doesn't just help them. It helps their draft pick for next year in case they want to do something in the NFL draft in the first round. So Rams locked into the 5 seed if they win. If they would lose both these games, they'd fall to the 6. If they lose one of these games, I think they'd still fall to the 6, and I think the San Francisco 49ers or the Seattle Seahawks would move ahead of them. But Seahawks and Niners, the winner of this game will get the 1 seed. The loser, which is the Rams are 5, they fall to 6, which means you could be playing the Philadelphia Eagles or the Chicago Bears, depending on what happens in the Chicago-Detroit game. If the Bears win, they would get the 2 seed. If they would lose and the Eagles would win, the Eagles would get the 2 seed and the Bears would fall to the 3 seed. So do you want to go to Philadelphia if you're Seattle? If you're San Francisco, go to Philly. Play a team that's coming off Super Bowl championship that's been very good in the playoffs, especially at home. Jalen Hurts has only either lost in the Super Bowl or in Tampa Bay. The only 2 places he's lost. So He's been good in the playoffs. Playoff riser. That team is loaded. They have a lot of experience. So there is stuff to play for Philadelphia. We'll see how Nick Sirianni handles that. But there's a lot to play for, but this is a huge game for the Seahawks and 49ers. Like you said, the 1 seed versus having to go on the road. It's kind of a mirror situation to what we had last year with Sam Darnold, who's the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks. When he was in Minnesota, remember they had this win for the 1 seed, lose you fall to the 5 seed. Again, because of the division. And this is when Dan Campbell started. Like, why are we seeding this? This Vikings should have been the 2 seed last year. They were not, because they had to go on the road and play a playoff game. Even though they went to Arizona because of the fires in California and they played the Rams and they ended up losing that game. So, winner gets the 1 seed, loser gets the 6 seed. My prediction, I think the Niners are going to beat the Seahawks. I think it's going to be a very similar situation to last year with Sam Darnold. I think that they're going to have a really good regular season. Must-win game in the last game of the regular season. They lose, and then I think they lose their first playoff game. I think the Seahawks are really good. I love Mike McDonald. I love that defense. I think there's a lot of limitations with Sam Darnold. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. And I hope that the Seahawks get the job done, because I like the Seahawks team. I love Jackson Smith and Jigba. I love Mike McDonald. I like Sam Darnold. I want to see it before I believe it. And I've seen it with the Niners. Kyle Shanahan might be the coach of the year. With all the injuries they've had to deal with. Their offense is playing great. They scored 48 points against the Colts, 42 points last night on Sunday Night Football to beat the Bears. Defense is struggling. They got to figure out the defense, but their offense is humming right now. They're just trying to get healthy on the offensive side of the ball, figure out how to get that defense better with Bob Zala, and I think they can make a serious run in the playoffs. Talk about experience. They have the experience. This team's been to a Super Bowl. People forget that just 2 years ago. They were injured last year. They're back. They're benefiting from that last place schedule to get to 12-4, and we'll see what happens. So I do think the Niners at home defeat the Seahawks and actually clinch the 1 seed in the NFC. Now we'll go to our pain and panic of the week, and we'll get out of here. My pain of the week, the Pittsburgh Steelers. You lose to the Cleveland Browns. Again, there were some questionable calls. I'm not going to say the game's rigged. You can say the game's rigged. I'm not going to do it. But they lose that tough game to Shadur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns, and now they have this must-win game, and it's just tough. It's like all you had to do. The Ravens lost to the Patriots last week. All you needed to do was beat the Cleveland Browns. We're not a good team, by the way. You only score 6 points, and you lose 13-6. Also, slight pain for Myles Garrett. Still half a sack away, so he does need a sack in Week 18 to clinch the sack record. So we'll see if he's able to get it, but he's been on 22 now for the last 2 weeks. Got half a sack against the Bills and no sacks against the Steelers, who had a backup tackle blocking them. So tough pain for Myles Garrett, but the main pain is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this could all be null and void if they end up winning the game against the Ravens and making the playoffs, so it really doesn't matter. Probably would have been nice, though, to beat the Browns and then maybe rest your guys, give Aaron Rodgers a free bye before going to a playoff game, because they would have been locked into the 4 seed, basically. So tough break for Pittsburgh. We'll see what they're able to do. Again, my prediction is the Ravens end up winning that game, but could be wrong. Pittsburgh wins, kind of a moot point, and Pittsburgh ends up in the playoffs. But as of right now, my pain is the Pittsburgh Steelers. My panic of the week, the Green Bay Packers. A lot of it's not their fault. They are banged up, man. Everybody's hurt. Jordan Love, I would expect to be back for the playoffs. I don't think he's going to play this week against the Minnesota Vikings, because that game is literally meaningless. It is. They're the 7th seed. They know what they are. They win, they're 7th seed. They lose, they're 7th seed. Nothing changes for the Green Bay Packers right now. So I expect them to rest their guys, get a free bye week going into the playoffs, where they'll play the 2 seed, whether that be Philadelphia or Chicago. Probably want it to be Chicago. You beat Chicago at home. You lost to them at their place. You'd have to go to their place. But if you're healthy, maybe you think you have a better shot. Again, inexperience. Again, it'd be Ben Johnson's first playoff game, Caleb Williams' first playoff game. How do they handle that situation? Billy, of course, a bunch of playoff experience coming off the Super Bowl. So I would think a lot of people would rather play the Bears than the Eagles. Not saying this year. I think the Bears have had a phenomenal season, but just off playoff experience and knowing what you're going to get. Matt LaFleur's been to the playoffs. Jordan Love's been to the playoffs. They know what to do. So they'd have a playoff experience advantage over the Chicago Bears. As it turned, they would not have that against the Philadelphia Eagles. So panicking a little bit because of their injuries. They just let Derrick Henry run all over them. Again, there's a chance they could play the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs. So they have to play that, man. Saquon Barkley could have a field day in that one. It was a low-scoring game last time they played. It'd be low-scoring. Philadelphia doesn't know how to play a game in the 20s, so it'd be a low-scoring game. But panicking a little bit about the Packers, just for this season. Micah gets back next year. They get healthy. They could be fine. They're the youngest team in the NFL, so I think they have a long way to go. This is not like their window's closing on them because of injuries. No, I think they're going to be fine and be able to come back next year. But this season's team that had so much promise early in the year, you feel bad for them, and I'm just panicking about them going into the playoffs. Like I said, I take the bye because of the ties, and I do want to talk about this a little bit. The NFL's got to get rid of ties. I'm sick and tired of it. Okay, and this is not a shot that the Packers should not be in the playoffs because of a tie, because they could have won that game against the Cowboys. But there is a chance that the Vikings beat the Packers. Okay, yeah, they beat the Packers on Sunday when they play. They play. Vikings win. They're at 9-8. The Packers are at 9-7-1. The Packers will get in by half a game. They're both 9-8. I believe the Vikings would get in. Don't know that for sure. Maybe they wouldn't anyway. But it's like we're gonna have a half game split up where it's like, in the NFL, it's the only of the big four major sports that has ties. I know soccer has ties, but that's because they could play another 90 minutes and nobody would score. Our kickers are good enough now. You will score. You start at the 35-yard line half the time. So you're going to score points. I think they should just get rid of the clock. I think they should just go, hey, here's what we're doing. No ties. One team gets the ball first. The other team gets a guaranteed possession. Then it's sudden death. Next bucket wins. I think that's just how it's got to be. And you get rid of the ties. We don't have this problem, and we figure it out. I know they don't want the teams playing so much. I know it's the wear and tear on the body. I get it. But at this point, with the 10-minute clock, both teams getting the ball, we've had so many situations where we could have had so many ties this year, but the team decided to go for two to try to win the game, which credit to them. Give them credit for wanting to win, not playing for a tie, but we could have had so many more. We did end up with one, the 40-40 tie between the Cowboys and the Packers, where they kicked the field goal to tie the game, which is, again, was the right decision, but I think we should just get rid of it, get rid of the clock. Both teams get the ball once, then it's next score wins. We have kickers who are kicking it from 60, 65, 70 yards sometimes. So they'll be able to try long field goals and see what happens, risk reward. But yeah, I just think they should go to basically the NFL postseason rules where we need a winner. We're not going to play to a tie. Just get rid of the clock entirely. If you want to keep the clock up there to be like, okay, we'll do a quarter change and we'll switch sides, you can. But yeah, I just don't like ties. And I think there's a way to fix it. There's negatives to it. You start seeing games get longer, guys get hurt. You'd have downsides to it, I'm sure. But the tie potentially changing the playoff outcomes. Again, I'm not blaming the Packers. They could have won that game if we did it by those rules. But yeah, so that's my rant on ties. Okay, I want to get rid of them. And if we can, I think that would be very, very, very nice. All right, that's going to do it here for this solo episode. Again, we went through all the divisions. I gave my predictions. If you didn't hear them, here are my predictions for each division. I think the Ravens will end up winning the AFC North with a win over the Steelers. I think the Jags will win the AFC South if they beat the Titans. Call me biased for it. I don't care. For the NFC South, I do think the Bucs are going to beat the Panthers just because the Bucs refuse to die. And if they're just going to keep staying alive, they might as well just win it. And then I think the Niners will be the 1 seed, and I think they will defeat the Seattle Seahawks on Saturday night. Again, that's going to do it here for this episode. Thank you for listening. Please check out, again, we will have a college football episode coming out tomorrow, previewing the college football playoff quarterfinals as we get up. Also, recap bowl season. I want to talk about the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I love the Pop-Tarts Bowl. It's the greatest thing in the world. So, love the Pop-Tarts Bowl and want to give a lot of respect to that as well as all the bowl games. I was at the Pinstripe Bowl watching Penn State defeat Clemson. I have a lot of great experiences, some stories to tell from that one. And there's been a lot of great bowl games. Bowl games are dying, but boy, are they fun if you handle them, if the teams handle them the right way. And some of the teams have not. But been a lot of fun. So we're going to talk about that. Chris will be back for our Friday episode as usual when we'll be previewing the final week of the season. We'll probably give our week final end of season superlatives. We'll probably preview, what the playoffs are going to look like, who's going to win the games. We'll go over game picks, which I have officially clinched after this weekend. Upset picks, which I've also officially clinched after I'm now 10-7 in upset picks. So I've had a good upset year as well. Predictions have been on. I'm not going to complain about it. But thank you for listening. Please check out all the short form content. We do appreciate it. I hope you all had a fantastic holiday season. We'll see you. I'll see you tomorrow. So I wish you a happy new year tomorrow. But if you're not going to watch tomorrow's episode, you're an NFL guy, you're not going to watch a college episode, I understand. wish you a very happy new year as we bring in 2026 here. It's going to be a phenomenal year, hopefully, for you. I'm rooting for everybody out there, but thank you for listening. And please like the video, subscribe to the channel, go check out all the short form content. We miss Chris. Can't wait to have him back. He's with his girlfriend's family this weekend, so I'm sure he's having a great time. But he misses you as well. He wishes you a happy new year as well. So for my partner, Chris Reynolds, who's not with me today, love you, buddy. I'm Adam Sheets. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.